have Pastor Mason Dorsey from Trinity Community Church in Fleming Island to give us our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. Before I pray, can I just extend a quick word of appreciation and congratulations? Thank you. So to all the students that are here tonight for academic awards and for athletic awards and for attendance awards, thank you all very much for all that you're learning and for the ways that you're going to bless other people through what you're learning. To all the teachers and coaches that helped them along the way, thank you very much. And to all the parents, great job. Thank you for doing such a great job raising up great kids. Appreciate it very much. So if you will, let's pray together. Gracious God, we come before you tonight in grateful thanksgiving for all that you have given to us, particularly the students that are in our care. And God, we just want to glorify you by how we raise them up to know you, to bless you, and to bless the people around them. And so, God, continue to pour out your Holy Spirit upon our students, upon our teachers and staff and administration, upon our schools, upon our school board, and continue to help us to honor you and glorify you in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Dorsey. So school is out for the summer, so we do not have a student showcase tonight. So I will call to order the regular board meeting of June 1st, 2023. Welcome, citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our schools here in Clay County and the education of our children. If you wish to address the board on an agenda item, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which you'll find at the back of the room, indicating the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about, and turn it in promptly to one of our officers. If you have items that you would like to present to the school board or the superintendent, please hand them to an officer who will distribute them accordingly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the public comment section under presentations from the audience. Your participation is always welcomed and appreciated. Tonight we have several recognitions and awards, and we will begin with the students with perfect attendance, K6, K8, and K12. Superintendent Broski will be recognizing those scholars.
I am excited to give the perfect attendance awards this evening. I was not a student that had perfect attendance. My dad always wished that to be true, but it just wasn't. So this is kind of amazing. These students have been, for many years, perfect attendance. So without further ado, let me call these students up. Our first student is perfect attendance, kindergarten through 6th grade. Okay, yeah, I'm impressed too. Let's get a big ooh-ah out there. Rideout Elementary School, Joseph Erickson. Next, we have perfect attendance, kindergarten through 6th grade, Wilkinson Elementary School, Jaden Lee. Next, we have perfect attendance from kindergarten through 8th grade. All right, yeah, it's almost like an ooh and an ah out there. Nice, nice. Appreciate the audience participation. Candace Bandor. Candace Bandor. Last but certainly not least, perfect attendance, kindergarten through 12th grade. Clay High School, Timothy Walker.
All right, next we have the recognition of the recipients of the Superintendent's Florida Prepaid Scholarship. Superintendent
Yes,
Brodsky.
proud to have a business partnership with Florida Prepaid. They've given the opportunity for Clay County District Schools to bestow 2 scholarships to students. One is to a rising kindergartner, and the other one is to a senior going on to college. So without further ado, the first of our winners for the Rising Kindergarten Scholarship, the scholarship contest rules were created that they had to create an original art piece inspired by the theme, My Hopes and Dreams for Kindergarten, right? So you can just imagine the artwork that I received, okay? Several young artists submitted their original work to the county office throughout the month of March, and I'm happy to announce the winner of the Rising Kindergarten Scholarship from Patterson Elementary School, Zoe Watson. Isn't she just precious? Oh my. Can I take a picture with you over here?
Great job, young lady. Next we have
Oh, wait, we got one more.
Oh, you have one more. I'm
One
so
more,
sorry.
sorry.
So sorry.
Okay, additionally, with our partnership through Florida Prepaid, we're able to award one senior a 2-year college scholarship valued at about $8,000. The scholarship contest rules were to write a 500-word essay to share why they believe you deserve the scholarship and what your plans were for the future. Based on all of the essays that we received, this one individual from Ridgeview High School stood out among all others. She's an IB student and will be attending the University of Central Florida this fall. Congratulations, Kathleen Kivett-Smith.
But wait, there's more. Thank you, Mr. Brodsky. Next, we have the 2023-2024 Drug-Free Schools Calendar winners, and we have Miss Stephanie Gohagen from the Clay Action Coalition to make that presentation.
Thank you for having us. I'm Donna Wethington, not Stephanie Gohagen. That's okay. She was supposed to be here, but she's a little ill tonight. So I'm filling in for her. I am the executive director of Clay Action Coalition. It is our drug-free schools community coalition here in Clay County. And I do want to thank the partnership that we've had for many years with the school board, the school district, all the Karen Ollie for doing all her hard work, and Stephanie Gohagen for coordinating this drug-free schools calendar contest. This is always done around the Red Ribbon Week during October of the school year of each year. And the artwork that is presented in the calendars, we have 14 winners, and I'll be happy to present these to these outstanding young students. Through this calendar contest, it's K through 6th grade, and we distribute about 4,000 throughout the community. I do want to say that when the students receive their certificate and stand up here for their picture, we have a packet outside. If the parents will stop in the outside room, we will hand you a packet with calendars inside, a monetary award for the students that won, and I thought there was something else. Oh, well, they'll get their certificate up here, okay? Thank you. So, further ado, I think, do we have their presentation? Okay. The front cover winner for the 2023-24 school year is Amelia Harris, 5th grader from Orange Park Elementary School. Would you please come up? The inside front cover, Gabriela Garcia, 5th grade, Orange Park Elementary School. Next winner for the month of August is Haven Tamales, 3rd grade, Orange Park Elementary School. The winner for September is Gianna AP, 4th grader at Tynes Elementary School. October winner, Dalton Lee, 5th grader at Middleburg Elementary School. The month of November, Jenner Moses, 2nd grader at Thunderbolt Elementary School. In December, we have Avani Vega, kindergartner at Coppergate School of the Arts. She coming? Here she comes. Bonnie. For the month of January, we have Emma Winkle Ballard, 1st grader at Coppergate School of the Arts. Month of February, Haley Nalipa, 6th grader at Shadowlawn Elementary School. Month of March, Olivia McDonald, 4th grader, Coppergate School of the Arts. The month of April, we have Maggie Lee, kindergartner, Orange Park Elementary School. They here. In May, month of May goes to Brooke Wern, 3rd grader, Thunderbolt Elementary School. Month of June, Lila Mathis, 2nd grader, Orange Park Elementary School. Look at that cute. And then the month of July, Natalie Patrone, 6th grade, Coppergate School of the Arts. Beautiful. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Students, wait, before you go. Could you all turn around and face us? Because we always see just your backs, and hold up your certificates. Oh, those are awesome. You are all so talented. And thank you for sharing your talent to put across such an important message. Because what you're telling all of your friends is to be drug-free. And that, we all want to celebrate life, don't we? So thank you for all that you did to do this, to receive this award. Well done. Now you can go.
All right. Great job, everyone. Thank you for sharing your talent. Next, we will recognize the winners of the 2023 Math Field Day. And we have Miss April Shipley, our elementary math curriculum coach, here to make that presentation.
Hi, thank you for having us. I am here to celebrate one of the best events that Clay County has. We are going to start with Aubrey Dale, who won both of the Muggins Awards this year. Come on, Aubrey. She won the highest score, and she had the overall winner. And is your admin here? Can they come take a picture with you? She is from Cherry Elementary School. Woo woo! This is the first time I have ever seen someone win both of the awards. So congratulations, Miss Dale. That's right. That's right.
What school was that again?
From Cherry. In case you didn't hear. So Math Field Day is 4 events where kiddos get to do 4 very different activities. She can go with their parents. And they compete, and they have a pizza lunch, and all of the scores are tabulated, and then we come in and we have an award ceremony, and we want to recognize them here today because we think it's super special for them. So we're going to start with 4th grade at Patterson Elementary School. They got first place. That is Avril Akers, Stanley Hahn, Brandon Horath, Finley Kusick, Elizabeth Longworth, John Sykes, and their coaches, Mrs. Steinfurth and Mrs. Manzi. Congratulations, Miss Manzi and Miss Stanford. Nice job. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. And for 2nd place, we had a tie between Orange Park and Thunderbolt. So Orange Park Elementary is going to enter first. Cohen Cook, Lydia Cunningham, Elena Helmuth, Brooklyn Watt, Maya Westfall, Chloe Williamson, and their coaches, Miss Doty and Mr. Story, if they are here. Congratulations, guys. No, we're going to do separate. We're going to do separate. Yeah. Miss Doty's got to get in there. All right, congratulations. All right, Thunderbolt, come on over. Chloe Barrett, Grayson Moore, Jensen Lauer, Ralph McCrittis, Riston Senna, Matthew Thompson, and their coaches, Miss Armstrong and Mr. Detweiler, if they are here. Congratulations. Congratulations, guys. So third place for fourth grade is swimming pen. We have Davy Gornowitz, Chloe Buckler, Alaric Brock, Peyton Burns, David Foster, Wynn Weeks, and their coach, Miss Vandewater. Congratulations. All right, now we're going to move on to fifth grade. Our first place winner was Patterson, Nathan Hancock, Wyatt Lundy, John Nose, Ella Weflin, Alan Stevenson, Kyan Summerlin, and their coaches, Miss Stevenson and Miss Hancock. Congratulations. Second place for fifth grade was Lake Asbury, Logan D. Martinez, Shane Espaldon, Jacob Cormier, Ashby Combs, Michael Pollard, Jaden Sparrow, and their coach, Miss Esqueef. Congratulations, guys. Our third place winners are Fleming Island Elementary, Lucas Harrell, Colton Gall, James Dudicki, Hiro Untevero, Bella Hartzell, Ansley Sandifer, and their coaches, Mrs. Bernard and Mrs. Glidden. Congratulations. So I think that fourth, fifth, and sixth grade all have a great time at Math Field Day, but it's very special when you're in sixth grade and you have been on the team for several years in a row. There's only one team in all of Clay County who's had the same members all 4 years, and that would be Orange Park in sixth grade, and they won first place. It is Josie Ibarro Valenzuela, Miguel Sanchez, Amir Abbasini, Aiden Watt, Jaden Sims, Addison McGarva, and their coach, Mr. Harris, who's not able to be here. Oh, here, turn. Congratulations, guys. So sixth grade second place is Thunderbolt, Karas Bakhtar, Carlo Beam, Eve Schlotthauer, Jeter Slayman, Ashley Warner, Braden White, and their coach, Mrs. Carnuth. Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. And we have third place for sixth grade, which went to Fleming Island Elementary. Trip Patton, Graham Sauer, Darla Hartzell, Daniel Watkins, David Watkins, Blake Wigaines, and Mrs. Michaels, their coach. All right, so I wanted to thank all of the coaches and all of the students, but I really want to thank all of the parents, which I think many have left, but you are so appreciated in bringing your students to these practices, bring them out early on a Saturday morning to do math, so we appreciate all of you guys, and they had a lot of fun.
I think my favorite part of Math Field Day is the witty t-shirts that they all wear. All right, next we have the recognition of the FHSAA State Championship Boys Weightlifting winners. And we have Mr. John Scrumolo to announce the winners.
Awesome. Well, good evening, Superintendent Broski and School Board. Such an exciting time here in Clay County District Schools, and I can tell you that it was an outstanding school year in athletics. We've once again raised the bar in Clay County in the state of Florida, and that wouldn't be without your support as a school board and Mr. Broski's support as a superintendent. We continue to be creative and innovative and provide a world-class student-athlete experience. So super excited to see what the future holds. And tonight we celebrate more of the same. You know, I look back to the time during COVID, which was a tough time for all of us to try to navigate the situation that we were in. And nevertheless, we were one of the first counties in the state of Florida to open back up. And we've seen the residual effects of that in weightlifting in terms of, we're going to see a 3-time state champion program recognized tonight. Fleming Island 2 out of the last 3 years, and then Clay High Girls winning 2 out of the last 3 years. We had a 6 months head start, and that really made a difference in getting our kids back where they needed to be. So the first team we're going to recognize, and I'm going to call them up if the entire team can come up, is the 2A FHSAA Boys Weightlifting State Champions, the Fleming Island Golden Eagles. Good job. You guys can just stand right up there. It'd be great. Travis, you stand over here real quick. So what we're going to do is they actually have a pretty good amount of individual state champions. So we're going to recognize them real quick, and then I'll have Coach Cunningham, the athletic director here at Fleming Island, recognize the other students that are with us. It is summertime now, so some of our seniors have maybe moved on to college and those types of things. But our first individual state champion, Jared Rhodes. He's not here today. Give Jared a big round of applause. His family's watching. Our next individual state champion, boys weightlifter, Kevin Reyes. Our next individual winner, Tyler Beverly. Is he here? Okay. Moved on too. No worries. Give him a round of applause. He earned a state championship. And I believe our final individual state champ, Zach Davis. Not here? Okay. We'll give him a round of applause. Coach Cunningham, can you announce each lifter for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of like last week at the school board meeting. I'm gonna invite each one up and let you guys say your names.
Go ahead. Come on, fellas. We'll just say our name and get back in line.
Josh Langston, Nicholas Cruz, Aiden Rucker, Mason Donahue,
Tyler Williams,
Kevin Reyes,
Braden Cunningham.
We'll give them a round of applause. The Fleming Island boys state champion weightlifting team. Our next team is special, and they're special for a lot of different reasons. You know, winning a state championship in anything is just a tremendous accomplishment. But to do it 3 times, I would classify that as a dynasty and something that people will remember till the end of time. Before I bring them up, he's a super humble guy, and he'll never tell you. Their success is due to multiple coaches. It's not just one, but their head coach was this year's Clay County Male Coach of the Year, Mr. Lance Lowry. And you can give him a round of applause. Yeah. And one thing that I like to say about Coach Lowry, I'll never forget this. At the county meet over at Oakleaf, there was 5 or 6 teams that were participating. And the Oakleaf coach that was running the meet had to break down all these platforms, and it was a lot of work. And they were, they only had so many student athletes to do it. Coach Lowry said, "Guys, you know what to do." And I witnessed 20 young men instantly jump on it, breaking down the platforms, picking it up. That is the true testament of a team. It's a true testament of men of integrity and men that are going to do great in their lives. So, and that's all to Coach Lowry's leadership. I'd like to welcome up the 3-time state champion Keystone Boys Weightlifting team.
Mr. Scrumolo, I am really missing your soundtrack right now.
No dance moves tonight, sorry. That's 1 day out of 365. It would be, maybe for board meetings we could do that though, little walk-up songs or something.
Did you make a CD of that?
Yeah,
Because Ashley and I,
we got you covered.
We want to request one.
So we had 2 individual state champions this year, and I'd like to recognize those 2 young men. Our first individual state champion, Larry Jeffries III. Is he here? And our second individual state champion, Brian Overton. He's not here. Awesome. Good job, Brian. All right, and I'll bring up Coach Lowry if you want to just introduce your team real quick.
Hope I get this right. Down on this end, first is Coach Steve Reynolds. He is our new football coach, and he's helped me the last couple years with weightlifting, and couldn't do what we do without him. Doug Johnson, the short little old guy standing right here in the middle of us. We've won actually 3 in a row. We've won 4. We've actually won 5 totals in the last 9 years. I have not won one without him. Next is Landon Hosepian, a senior in the 183-pound class. The next one is Braden McCall. He's our lone 8th grader, made it all the way to the state semifinals. That's crazy. Trey Jeffries is a junior. He is a state champion. I expect he will repeat. Jackson Herman is a 238. I hope he stays in the 238s. Keep scoring points. Tyler Duncan is a sophomore as well. He's a heavyweight, as you can tell. Breyer is the senior standing up here. He and Landon, we will be losing them. Breyer was a state champion last year and then repeated this year as part of a team state championship. And he and Landon are the 2 that actually scored in the 183-pound class. Those 2 together scored more points than the kid that won the 183-pound class. That's incredible. Jaden Goodman is a junior, and Damian Dunlap is a sophomore. And on the end is our athletic director, Coach Chuck Dickinson. Thank y'all.
One more round of applause for the Keystone Indians. Congratulations.
Great job, gentlemen. All right, next we have the recognition of the Social Studies Teachers of the Year, and we have Miss Mary Owen and Miss Stephanie Navarro, our Social Studies curriculum coaches, to recognize those teachers.
Good evening, board and Superintendent Broski. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for our teachers who are going to be recognized, if you wouldn't mind coming up here for us. Thank you. Yep, perfect. Awesome. Are we missing anybody? Okay, all right. Each year, the Florida Council for Social Studies provides us with the opportunity to recognize outstanding social studies teachers. Superintendent Broski once again invited our teachers, administrators, staff members, students, and parents to nominate social studies teachers who inspire creativity, passion, and a love of learning. This year, we had over 100 nominations from colleagues, students, and parents. Tonight, we'll be recognizing 6 teachers who were selected for the following award categories: the Warren Tracy Beginning Teacher, Excellence in Teaching History, Clay Civics Champion, and Outstanding Social Studies Teacher for elementary, junior high, and high school. It brings me great pleasure to introduce to you the exceptional educators who were selected. First, we'd like to start by recognizing our Warren Tracy Beginning Social Studies teacher, Miss Brianna Stilts, a government and econ teacher at Middleburg High School. She was nominated by numerous colleagues, parents, and students based on the success she has had as a beginning social studies teacher. Ms. Stilts works to identify her students' unique strengths to help them develop a positive sense of self. She has discovered creative ways to engage students in the magic of social studies while continuously building positive relationships. Ms. Stilts has provided real-world learning experiences that include utilizing guest speakers from the community and conducting a budget project for her economics classes. Her willingness to give her own time to work with students is inspiring, as she can often be seen coming in early and staying late, which has no doubt helped to contribute to her students' success. Next, we'd like to recognize Mr. Justin Daniels from Orange Park High School as our Excellence in Teaching History recipient. Mr. Daniels cannot make it this evening, but really wishes that he could be here. He was nominated for the impact that he's had on his students by his colleagues, who described him as a dedicated, passionate, caring, and student-centered teacher. As a high school government and econ teacher, he has consistently provided his students with real-world experiences, most recently collaborating with the supervisor of elections office to host a voter registration fair to encourage students to register and pre-register to vote. Many of these experiences have been funded by grants written by Mr. Daniels to fund projects that positively impact the students of Orange Park High School. It is evident that students leave his class with a more profound understanding of their role as citizens. Both Ms. Stilts and Mr. Daniels are in the process of submitting paperwork to compete for the state award, which will be announced in October. All right, yes. The following 3 awards honor outstanding social studies teachers in the elementary, junior high, and high school levels. We are proud to recognize our outstanding elementary social studies teacher, Ms. Stacy Jeffries. She teaches 6th grade world history at Charles E. Bennett and was nominated by her colleagues, who praised her for her kind and considerate demeanor towards her students, faculty, and staff. Ms. Jeffries inspires her students to reach their full potential and to continue learning throughout their lives. Her classroom environment fosters positivity as she creates engaging lesson plans that bring history to life. For instance, when learning about Mesopotamia, Ms. Jeffries engaged her students in a mock trial activity that involved analyzing Hammurabi's code to determine its fairness. Engaging lessons like these give students opportunities to make connections between their learning on ancient civilizations and participating as engaged citizens in a modern world. Next, our outstanding junior high social studies teacher recipient is Ms. Jennifer Breimer, a civics teacher at Keystone Heights Junior Senior. Ms. Breimer is dedicated to her students' success and makes it a priority to establish positive relationships with each of them. She holds high academic expectations for her students while inspiring them to believe in themselves and their abilities. She is committed to engaging her students in relevant and rigorous learning opportunities that allow them to experience civics in a meaningful way. For example, earlier this year, Ms. Breimer organized a simulation of the Constitutional Convention where students were tasked with representing the original 13 states in order to collaborate around what would eventually become the Constitution. This provided them with a unique opportunity to experience the framers' struggles to reach a compromise. Ms. Breimer's administrator praised her energy, passion, dedication, instructional excellence, and leadership skills, making her a standout teacher at Keystone Heights. We'd also like to recognize Ms. Rita Peterson, an AP Social Studies teacher from Clay High School, as our outstanding high school social studies teacher. Ms. Peterson is unable to be here tonight, but her principal, Dr. Halter, is here to accept the award on her behalf. Ms. Peterson's compassion for her students is unmatched, and her passion for social studies education is contagious. She is an innovative teacher who has a special knack for bringing out the very best in each of her students. She is known for her highly captivating and creative ways of immersing her students in the content. This is evident when year after year, students line up to take her class. All right, this year we have added a new annual award in recognition of all that our teachers have done to support the implementation of new civic standards. The Clay Civics Champion Award celebrates teachers who have encouraged civic-mindedness in their students throughout their dedication to teaching and inspiring the next generation of civic leaders. We are excited to recognize our very first Clay Civics champion, Mr. Michael Taft, a civics teacher from Green Cove Junior High School. Mr. Taft was nominated by multiple colleagues, parents, and students for his contagious passion for civics education and his commitment to instilling the values of active citizenship in our students. Mr. Taft has provided multiple opportunities for his students to experience impactful civic participation, such as hosting a naturalization ceremony during which 47 new American citizens from 30 different countries took the oath of allegiance. During this emotional ceremony, there was not a dry eye, mine was including. During this emotional ceremony, the Green Cove Junior Cafeteria was transformed into a federal courtroom, while Mr. Taft's students called the ceremony to order and introduced each new American citizen to the audience. Each year, Mr. Taft's students select a class president, whose job is to survey the student body at Green Cove and prepare and deliver the state of the school's address. Experiences like these have helped to foster a sense of civic responsibility and engagement amongst the students. We are so proud of these teachers and their commitment to social studies education and the students of Clay County. Let's give them all one more round of applause. Mr. Broski, would you like to come down and take a picture?
We are so blessed to have such wonderful teachers here in Clay County. Next, we have the ceremonial signing of the ratified Fraternal Order of Police Florida State Lodge contract. And Ms. Brenda Troutman, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, is here to make that presentation.
All right, good evening. And Ms. Gilhousen, if we could have you come. And we also are honored to have tonight Mike Tucker. He's the Florida Labor Council Chief of Staff for the Fraternal Order Police, and Mrs. J.J. Dixon, who is the Staff Representative Fraternal Order Police. And I will have Chief Wagner. That's our Chief of Police here. I'm going to let him announce who officers are here.
All right, we have Officer Chris Kesting, who is the Vice President, and Officer Robert Troxel, who is the Treasurer for the local lodge here in Clay County.
Okay, so what we're doing tonight is we are going to have a ceremonial signing. We have our first approved contract by the board and the Fraternal Order Police for our police department. This shows the dedication of our board and also our officers. We want to thank them for the work they do every day and during the summer to keep our schools and our staff safe. It's important for our students and it's important for our staff to know that when they go to school, they're able to work and learn in a safe environment. So thank you, board, and thank you for the collaboration that it took to get our first contract together, which is good through 2025. So, Mr. Tucker, if you'll come, and Ms. Gilhousen.
Yes, I will. I just want to take a moment to, first off, thank the men and women and their families of first responders for Clay County and the good work that they do to keep the schools safe here. So can we give them a round of applause real quick, the police and first responders here? Thank you. And I want to thank the board as well as the community for supporting our first responders as well. We're very proud of this. You had a great team. They made you very proud, but we are very happy with where we ended up, and glad that we came together for the betterment of everyone, and we look forward to working with you all in the future moving forward, and they'll continue to do the great work that they do. So we appreciate your support, and thanks again. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Chief, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Yes.
You can call.
All right, that concludes our awards and presentations for tonight. We have no school showcase again since school is out for the summer, and this will be our last call for comment cards before we begin our presentations from the audience. So if anybody has, okay, give them just a second. All right, while those are being collected, our first speaker tonight will be Bruce Friedman.
Good evening, everybody. When we last met a month ago, I submitted 51 new book challenges. They're still not on the reconsideration list. I submitted 171 requests for an appeal for failed challenges. I identified 3 of them right out of the gate, where the content involved one person with their hands in the pants of another person for nefarious reasons. Your new policy allows for me to submit 1 to 2 pages of a specified report in a special font, special size, special ink. I'm bringing 51 of those supplemental reports to you tonight. You received 21 of them by email last night. You'll get the rest by tomorrow. The other 120 I will complete within the next 13 days because I want this process to be fully charged. You should all be seasoned in what a complex process you have approved. This is the 3rd process you've approved since June that does not address the problem. Our libraries are filled with inappropriate materials. I'm going to read some of the summaries from the items that have been reviewed and found acceptable for our children. Graphic violence, vile dialogue. Okay, maybe that's a rule. You're willing to accept that. You're going to have to put it in writing. Make it part of a rubric, clean up the mess. Sexual violations, let's just call it porn. A bucket list for a dying child that includes graphic sex and drugs. Gender chaos. It's illegal, by the way, to put that in the curriculum, but if you want it in the libraries, write it down, say so. These challenges will stop. This one recommends thievery. And there's a line in it I think I should read. Not that you need a boyfriend yet, or a girlfriend, or non-binary friend. There is no non-binary. You have X's, you have Y's, you have combinations thereof. This one is promotion of white hatred, violence, infidelity, promiscuity, murder, critical race theory. I'm going to stop there. You get the idea. Some of these things are not appropriate for our children. None of them are appropriate for my child. You have done nothing to address the fact that there are probably over 2,000 books with similar content in our libraries today. Do what you do. I'll see you on the 29th with the rest. Have a good night.
Next, we have Victoria Tompkins.
Hello, my name is Victoria Tompkins, Superintendent Broski and board members. I have come here tonight to speak on your decision on how to handle the state's ruling that parents must be made aware of all books their children are exposed to. First, I would like to address the major issues with your decision. One, Mrs. Kidwell, the union president, was told by district leadership that it wouldn't take much time to run our books through Destiny. With a library of over 1,100 books, I respectfully disagree. It was very time-consuming. I came in early, used my planning, lunch, and stayed after many hours to finish this task without compensation. Second, I do not believe, or maybe some of you have, thought through the repercussions. Many teachers have already removed their libraries after last year's threat of jail time and the difficulty of deciding which books adhere to the rules. This is going to continue to happen with this newest hurdle. I have no problems with parents having access to my classroom library. I wish more parents would visit. There are other ways of doing this. We can log our books into spreadsheets made available in our Google Classrooms. Parents can also fill out the same library book access forms for our classrooms that they do for the school libraries. You can make this happen. I have 120 books not currently in Destiny. I have given you 6 of those to look at. That may seem like a small amount when I have 1,000 others, but it is a very big deal when 57 of them are history book and 12 are science. Under the current rule, if I am the only teacher on my grade level to submit books, it will take 15 years to have those books put back into my library. Why are teachers not trusted to follow the basic rules of the library, which are to meet the needs of readers' interests, to support the state academic standards, and to support the academic needs of students and faculties? Also, books must be free of pornography and material prohibited under the law. They must be suitable to student needs and their ability to comprehend the material presented, and that must be appropriate for the grade level and age group for which the materials are used or made available. Do the books I gave you to look at not meet this criteria? I have been in the classroom for the past 17 years. I have a history degree and a master's in reading and literacy. Does this not make me qualified to decide which books meet the criteria I listed above? When I first came into Duval and then into Clay, I heard over and over that teacher leaders were wanted. I no longer believe this. I believe what is wanted that are people who will toe the party line and follow the decisions made by the higher-ups. I cannot be that person. I will be the leader who speaks for students and their needs. I will say things that others think but are too afraid to say for fear of retaliation. My classroom library will never be removed. I am currently taking the Civic Seal of Education courses. These classes, as well as my own knowledge, has shown me the hypocrisy of the governor and at least several of you sitting up there. First, I would like to quote Ms. Skipper from August 9th, 2022 in your statement about the new civics curriculum. You stated every student needs to understand their responsibility in society. It is not always about your rights. It is also about your responsibility to your country, family, and other citizens.
Ms.
Well,
Tompkins, your time's expired. If you'd like to address the school board, please address us as a whole, not as individuals.
While we each have a right to freedom, we also do not have the right to infringe upon other freedoms, despite what other people who have spoken before me think. The American Library Association said that the First Amendment gives everyone residing in the United States the right to hear all sides of every issue and to make their own judgments about these issues without government interference or limitations. The Civic Seal of Excellence courses To sum it up, since I am over my time, all of history needs to be taught. Children don't want to be caught up in politics. They need to learn to disagree. Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunes mentioned that communist countries demand control of what people say and do, and they suppress information. Are we not going against these very statements with these teacher restrictions? Who does everyone think is tasked with teaching students history and civics? I'm not going to make my points about what the library media manual quotes, but I do want to ask you to consider why this is okay for the school libraries, but we can't use these for our classroom libraries. I implore you to change your current decision on how books are put in the classrooms. You have looked at 6 of the 120 I can't currently put in my library. Tell me you can look every one of your educators in the face and tell us you don't trust us. Show us that you do and change your decision. Thank you.
Next is Summer Grace.
I'll make it really short and sweet. I really just wanted to thank
Miss
you
Grace,
for...
I'm sorry. If you'll just state your name and address for the record before you begin your comments.
Sure. My name is Summer Grace, and I live in Middleburg.
Your full address.
4335 Falcon Run Lane.
Thank you.
But I really just wanted to thank you, each and every one of you on the school board, for your decision in keeping the genders to each gender in the restrooms. I think that's very important. And I also support going through every single library with a fine-tooth comb. And if it's if it's a team that you need to do that, I would be one of those willing to do that. But I really just wanted to say thank you for your stand on that and putting yourselves, not putting politics above our children and what all of the parents' values, most of the parents' values want. Thank you very much.
Next is Madison Hilt.
Hey, board. Madison Hilt, 2272 Orange Avenue in Orange Park. Coming to talk to y'all today on the proposed transgender bathroom rules. I was born and raised here in Clay County. I went through the Clay County school system. Matter of fact, I actually had some of y'all as a teacher, specifically. But, you know, Clay County has always been a place of unity in my mind. I've worked and lived my whole life here, but this is a hard shake on how y'all are handling this. On your proposed policy, you say that you're going to have to, a student's going to have to talk to administration to use a gender-neutral restroom. Really, what you're telling these kids is they have 3 options when it comes to how you're going to handle this. And by the way, the law also says, and guidance that has come out, that not all of your restrooms have to be gender segregated as if they're multi-occupancy, as long as some are readily available. And I believe in everybody having their right to privacy, but you should also have some restrooms that are going to be more accessible to these kids. You're giving them those 3 options. They can humiliate and publicly out themselves to the entire school body by being required to come to their teachers and principals and administrators who they trust and basically be counted as another. Or 2, they can use the restroom that's being forced upon them by policy, which time after time we've seen makes them more depressed and honestly leads to them massively having an increased risk for being assaulted by their peers just because they look different for coming into the restroom. I mean, I'm pretty sure that in public, even though I'm not in school anymore, in public, if I walked into a men's restroom looking the way I do, I'm going to get the mess beat out of me because somebody thinks that I'm some sick freak or something. Or 3, they can violate the policy and they can get punished by their school administrators, which is really what a lot of these kids are probably going to end up doing. Now, I can't get into any of their minds, but I know that if I was in school right now and I was being targeted this way by my administration, I would probably try to lay low. So you're going to get the risk now that when they find out, they're going to get punished by their teachers and administrators, the same adults that we as a public trust to educate them and that they trust to keep them safe, secure, and to learn from. And not only are you going to be punishing them, you're going to be punishing them with a level 2 offense, which is the same thing that you punish somebody that vandalizes school property or steals from the school at, or somebody that verbally assaults someone. In my entire life here, working in government, working with y'all, working in the community, I've never had anything but people trying to unify. Let's unify, please. Let's treat people like people. Thank you for your time.
Next, I have Deanne Dockery.
Thank you. I'm Deanne Dockery, 3525 Ogle Bay Drive in Green Cove Springs. And I'm here today to address the board policy under consideration about designation for user gender in bathrooms, locker rooms, and dressing rooms. When this policy was drafted, Florida law was different than it is today. And the new law essentially makes this policy moot. So I know you may be withdrawing your vote for today, but in case you're not, I wanted to give you some things to think about. I don't agree with the new law. Many people don't. But while the school board must comply with it, it's important to know that it doesn't have to be punitive, as the draft is. It doesn't have to seemingly disregard the lived experiences of many of our children. It can still comply and at the same time be a statement of the way we value and protect each and every child and faculty member, regardless of whether they are transgender, non-binary, or intersex. There are several things that do not comply. Specifically, it doesn't address rules that are required for personnel, teaching and administrative personnel. It doesn't address training for personnel or communication of the policy to students and families in ways that are going to ensure compassion and understanding and reduce the risk of discrimination and bullying. It doesn't address enforcement for parents and students, understanding that only enforcement can come from personnel, not from the parents and students themselves. It doesn't have an appeals process. And there are problematic clauses, including this being a level 2 offense instead of a level 1, which the disciplinary action for level 2 can involve law enforcement, which seems very over the top. And it not only excludes students from using facilities that align with who they are, but they have to further suffer humiliation of having to ask permission to use gender neutral and single stall accommodations. Why would these accommodations not be available to every student without having to go through a permission process? What about a student who's being bullied? Are we saying they have to go through a permission process before they can use a single stall or gender neutral restroom? We can't ignore the real facts about kids who are bullied and about LGBTQ youth. There are elevated risks of depression, of substance abuse, and of suicide. Doing things that make life more difficult for these kids can have real consequences. So the good news is, as I understand it, you have until April 1st to submit documentation of compliance, and I urge you to go back to the drawing board and come up with a policy that cares about and sends the message that we care about all kids and value all families. It's very sad that we're here on the first day of Pride Month talking about this. And I'm here because I just want children and families to know that there are more people there who care about them than don't. Thanks.
Next is William Wiggum.
My name is William Wiggum. I live at 2424 Stony Glen Drive. I spent over 12 years in the Clay County School District system, and I would just like to say that School Board Policy 1.16, designation of user gender for bathrooms, restrooms, locker rooms, and dressing rooms is unethical, unscientific, and inhumane. In the first study analyzing the impact of anti-transgender bathroom policies, the UCLA School of Law concluded that there is no evidence to lead to the suggestion that letting transgender people use the bathroom of their choice increases the safety risk for the public. Trans kids are safer, happier, and feel more accepted when allowed to use the restroom of their gender identity. All of this occurs while not leading to an increase in sexual predatory behavior like many anti-trans propaganda proponents claim. Supporting transgender youth and allowing them to use the bathrooms that align with their identity has no risk to the public or transgender individual. It is also a fact that forcing transgender youth to use the public facility aligned with their sex assigned at birth is preposterously detrimental to them. When forced to use the wrong restroom, 70% of transgender people are verbally abused. 36% report being sexually assaulted, and 10% reveal they are physically assaulted by cisgender people. In allowing this policy proposal to take effect, the school board must accept that schools will become less safe, bullying and discrimination will increase, and the quality of life for transgender students will decrease. The school board will be directly putting trans children at unnecessarily higher risk of serious physical, verbal, and sexual assault, leading to higher rates of substance abuse and suicide compared to their cisgender counterparts. Gender dysphoria and being transgender is valid. We need to support at-risk youth and oppose anti-trans legislation. Thank you.
Next is Sherry McKay.
Good evening. I'm Cherie McKay. My address is on file. I actually have two things to discuss tonight. One is personal, as I have emailed all of you guys, so you are all already aware of the issue. But I have 3 kids. 2 of them had major issues this year at school. So I want to say that I watch the school board meetings at home because typically I can't be here, and the workshops. And to say that we don't have any problems here at Clay County is completely wrong. We do. And we need to do better to work out and be responsible for our problems. My first grader had 4 teachers this year. 4. Could have been 5. My 4th grader had 3 sets of teachers this year. My first grader went into school refusal and would not go to school. 2 teachers were fired between them 2. I have 3rd quarter, they moved school. 3rd quarter realized that the report cards were not merging. I discussed that and still have not gotten an answer whether my kids' report cards that are coming out tomorrow will be correct if they got merged or not. We're losing veteran teachers, good veteran teachers, and bringing in not so good new teachers. We need to do better at that. Second thing is with the student progression plan. I want to direct every single one of you guys. Do you know what the conversion chart is for the EOCs? Anybody? Like what a 5 would equate to? And your percentages on your grades, your final grades, what a 4 is, what a 3 is. There is literally nowhere on the Clay County site, anywhere, that gives that information. And that is different per county in Florida. And I had to dig and dig and dig and email, and teachers didn't know, guidance counselors didn't know, principals didn't know. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, my kids' grades depend on that, and I can't find it anywhere. I am asking you guys to put that in your student progression plan so that can be transparent to all of us that have kids that take EOCs and that goes to their final grade. Thank you.
Last, we have Judith Chappell.
Good evening. My name is Judith Chappell, and I live at 1604 Royal Fern Lane in Fleming Island, Florida. First, I wanted to say congratulations to all of the students, the parents, the teachers, for all of the academic awards that they received today, academic athletic awards that they received today during the ceremony. I do want to, however, say that this is a board meeting, and you read such an eloquent statement as to what this meeting is about. And my request, as someone who attends board meetings, I believe that the award ceremony should be just that. It should be separate from the board meeting. The board meeting, the parents deserve to have an opportunity where they can come and they can celebrate their students, their village, the teachers, and everyone who comes here to have their students recognized for all of their great accomplishments. Those of us who come for the board meetings, for the eloquent statement that you read in the beginning, for what the board meeting is about, that's what we come here to do. We're also proud of everything that these students do, but some of us are not here for that purpose. We're here for the business of the board. And the statement that you read for what the board meeting about, that is what the board meeting is for. Right now, we have an award ceremony and a board meeting breaks out at the award ceremony. My request as someone is that we have an award ceremony where everyone who wants to attend the award ceremony can attend, and then we have a board meeting so that those of us who want to attend the board meeting can attend the board meeting. Because right now, we have an award ceremony, and all of a sudden, a board meeting breaks out. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we will move to the adoption of the consent agenda. We have no items withdrawn or pulled to discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Ms. Hanson. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is our update from CCEA, Ms. Kidwell.
Good evening and happy summer. So today, I just want to talk about classroom libraries. There's a lot going on, but in December, the DOE implemented rules for the new media materials, which expanded the definition of media materials to include classroom libraries. A trained media specialist must approve and select all media materials, and they must be available in a searchable format. I've been advocating for months that the district prioritize the saving of classroom libraries by planning collaboratively and compensating the work that it will take to meet the law. The district has communicated no plan for the details of how hundreds of classroom titles will be cataloged. The only plan is messaging to teachers that if titles are in Destiny, they are allowed to remain in the classroom after they are recorded in a searchable library list within Destiny. Who will search the classroom library titles in Destiny? Who will compile the list that's searchable? Does the district have a plan for the lengthy process, or is it up to each teacher to volunteer their time? Is there a plan to make classroom libraries a priority by compensating our teachers for the hours of work that this will require? What about the hundreds of titles that are not in Destiny? What is the process to prioritize this vital resource for educators and learners? The district's plan is to allow the submission of 2 titles per grade level per quarter that are not already in Destiny. This is a bottleneck that will restrict the availability of a valuable resource. Educators know that classroom libraries are essential. In elementary education, engaging students in self-selected reading is a research strategy that promotes greater reading achievement, fluency, and lifelong reading habits. I am advocating for the district to prioritize the availability of classroom libraries and compensate the work necessary to keep this resource available to students. Teachers should not be expected to volunteer the hours of work needed to meet the new requirements of this law. Unfortunately, my month-long advocacy has fallen on deaf ears. District leadership response this week to me was, "It won't take that much time." I do not believe this response is in the best interest of our students. I warned the district that many teachers report they will take their books home. If the district does not consider classroom libraries a priority, why should they? It breaks my heart to imagine my own classroom without the hundreds of books I purchased and collected. This resource was cause for excitement and engagement for all of my students as they were learning to read. It was the central focus of my primary classroom. Classroom libraries are near and dear to the primary teacher's heart, and I am not alone. Please listen to our teachers. They've emailed me in their own words. I already hauled my books home. This was the first of 2 loads. It will definitely take many hours to do this job, maybe even days. I don't know if I'll do it. Without any guidance from the districts, teachers have already taken their books home to sell or have packed them up. I searched for hours through Destiny for titles of district-purchased early readers for a teacher. I found 1 book. The rest cannot be used without filling out a lengthy request that teachers don't have time to do and aren't willing to do, especially with a bottleneck where only 2 are allowed per quarter. What will happen to all of these expensive materials? It's a waste of precious funds, and that's not the intent of the law. None of the books I searched were offensive. Not one contained pornography or inappropriate content. They were books about animals and such to learn and practice early literacy. I did this for my pre-K class. It took me over a week. I made a list of the books, but not in Destiny. I made a list of the books that were not in Destiny. I would hope that I will get notified if they are ever added. The thing that upsets me the most is that my kids do not read. I use these board books to teach them how to handle books and to get them engaged in literacy. I use board books. Out of the 152 books that I had, only 30 were in Destiny. I packed up my library and I'm donating it to a teacher in another state. It's horrible, but it is what it is. The work is actually twofold. You have to create a running list of all the books in your library, and then you have to cross-check that list in Destiny. If teacher simply checks Destiny and the book is banned 6 months later without a running list, they are at risk of not knowing if they have the book or not. I have many more questions and concerns, and every time I ask these questions, multiple times, I never get an answer. I appreciate you advocating with regard to this issue. I feel school counselors should also be considered with regard to this issue of classroom libraries. I already typed the titles for all of my books in my office into Destiny, and I only ended up with 1 box full of books that I can use in my office. Books that I have used for many years for group counseling sessions and classroom guidance are not in the Destiny catalog. It's very frustrating. Thank you for advocating for all of us. I have over 1,300 books in my 5th grade classroom library, which I have already put into sheets so it can be searched. I've gone through and pulled books every time they have sent out a new list. This summer, I feel the expectation is that I should review every book through Destiny. This will be hours and hours of work. I would love to see someone from the district take on my classroom library and say that it won't take much time. Many teachers will take the books home. I teach emergent reading, and the use of simple decodable books is essential to my practice. Our media specialist told me that the only way I could keep any of these books in my classroom is if she has a copy in her library available to check out. This is just not possible, as I have many years of these simple books that have been proven effective in teaching reading and sight words. This is posing a major problem for our very youngest readers. We were shared the details of how to catalog our libraries in Destiny. We were told libraries aren't required in Clay County, but that's not what's best for kids, so you go with your gut on it. There are so many questions and concerns about this. I brought some of my library home. I have a ton of books. I gave them away to kids before we left. I plan to catalog what I brought home at some point this summer and take it back. But I'm not sure how long that's going to take me, or even how many books will even be in Destiny. Many are not. I easily have over 1,000 nonfiction books in my classroom library. It will take hours for me to type in each title and search Destiny. I teach gifted students. Several students have research goals with the language "will select from a variety of reference material" and information obtained from a variety of resources on their EPs. My classroom library must be ready to use at the start of the school year. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. I'm really at a loss as to what to do, and I already feel overwhelmed and anxious about returning to school in August. To me, these pictures are worth 1,000 tears. I cannot imagine that this is what Clay County really wants to be happening here. We all saw the pictures of the empty bookshelves in the classrooms where they taped up their classroom libraries and they covered them up with paper. That's what we're looking at right now if we don't do something about it. Please, please make this a priority. Our kids need books. This is what's best for our kids. Thank you.
I have next on the agenda an update from CESPA, but I don't see Mr. Roberts here. So moving along, we'll have the superintendent's update and presentation.
All right, I am excited to give this presentation tonight. You know, the end of the school year brings a lot of excitement. I know that, oh gosh, Tuesday was the last day for teachers, and there's a lot of joy in the air for that time frame. So I'm going to talk a little bit about graduation, summer learning, as well as summer meals and preparing for next year. First, graduation. Does it get any better than graduation? Whether I go to CVA graduation, Bannerman graduation, regular graduation, it simply doesn't. It never gets old to go to a graduation ceremony. Many of them, this just happened, and it's one tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Okay, so again, now is Kelly Watt too good with that? Look at that graphic there. That's a pretty cool graphic there, Kelly. Summer learning programs. We have summer reading camp, which provides reinforcement skills in literacy for 1,100 select rising kindergartners through fifth graders. 9 sites across the district. Runs from the 12th to the 20th, Monday to Thursday, 3 hours a day. We also have ELL Immersion Camp, which is 90 rising 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who speak English as a second language to immerse them in the English language. Field trips included, a lot of summer programming going on and starting right now. We also have a summer meal program. The schools that you see listed have breakfast and lunch served inside the cafeteria for on-site consumption. It's available for anyone 18 years or younger. It's closed on the 3rd and the 4th because of the holidays. So that's the summer meals. Preparing for next year, one of the things that's a little bit different in process for transportation is a registration process for bus transportation. One of the things that had come up was the efficiency of the routes. And if you're not sure who's going to ride the bus or not, it makes it very difficult to do that. So I know that's a new process for Clay County, but just about everywhere else in America, we asked people who's going to ride the bus in order to do that. Registration starts July 1st. If you have technology issues, just call transportation. They'll click the box for you in Synergy. So it's really not a hard thing to do. We just want to know if you're going to ride the bus or not so we can plan the routes accordingly.
Quick question, are we sending any information out to the parents?
We are.
Like not just necessarily
Yep,
electronic?
we'll blast it out all different ways.
Okay.
This year we started our training was yesterday and today. We had about 8 hours of all of leadership within the district, all in one place here at Fleming Island High School. A primary focus on engagement. You know, one of the things we notice is, and many of you are guilty of this too, like for example, how many of you ever sat through a presentation and faked like you were paying attention, but you weren't really paying attention? Raise your hand out there, right? So students are in the classroom, and students may in fact be compliant. They're doing what the teacher said. They're filling out the worksheet. They're doing whatever the activity is, but they're really not engaged. There's a difference between compliance and commitment to the work. Big focus on that, and actually I think that came from Ms. Hanson in a workshop talking about student engagement. So trying to move forward with student engagement, a whole host of engagement type activities were done the past 2 days. It was fantastic. Jenny Shepard and her group, Dr. Sanders, Miss Fogarty, I see a bunch of them in the back there, all leading the way in Clay County. It's always amazing to me. Our leadership wants to end the school year, and they want to the very next day start on the next. So teachers left. The next day, we're right at it for the next school year. So many things change over the course of the year. There's new legislation. There's new things you have to do, right? So we kind of front load that to leaders at the beginning of the summer because truly it takes the whole summer to get prepared for August 10th when students come back. Next week, we have the One Clay Leadership Academy for teacher leaders across the district, as well as the ESE Summer Summit for school leaders and teachers. Very proud of those programs in preparing not only administrators, but also teacher leaders to come back ready and stronger than ever for next school year. So Spring Park Elementary, I'm going to click on a video right now, giving you an update on that. Opening up here, not that long.
Hello, Spring Park Owls. How are you? I'm Miss Outman, and I am so excited to give you a sneak peek of our new school. First, before we get started on a mini tour, I want to thank Mr. Kramer, our project manager, Mr. Mitch, the foreman. I am really grateful for all of the men and women who are working so hard on our school, and to say that the quality of work is top-notch would be an understatement. I am so excited to get to share this with you. And as you can hear, we're still under construction and they are doing a fantastic job. So I can't wait to show you the rest. Okay, here we are in our cafeteria. This is where you will enjoy breakfast and lunch every day. This is also our stage, which is nearing completion. And this is where we will celebrate with awards assemblies and performances. And we will just have the best time here at SPS. We cannot wait to fill it with our amazing scholars and get our Learn On. I cannot wait to share the rest of the progress with you. So stay tuned and we will have other videos coming up during the summer.
Okay, how about opening up on time, on budget, and debt-free? Spring Park Elementary. Okay, have a safe summer for everybody. First day back with students, August 10th. Teachers return August 2nd. July 1st, we start the bus registration. It's full steam ahead for 23-24. Thank you so much.
Short and sweet, I like it. All right, next we have the public hearing to approve as advertised proposed School Board Policy 1.16, designation of user gender for bathrooms and restrooms, locker rooms, and dressing rooms. I will now open the public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to speak to the board at this time, you can approach the podium. No comment cards needed. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a vote. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
I have a motion from Ms. Skipper. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Ms. Clark. Any discussion? Ms. Bola.
When this first came up, this, I think, was proposed in January as a policy. And my initial question to Mr. Broski was, how many issues have we had in our bathrooms? And his response was, over the past 30 years, I believe, that you've been in the county? 34. Oh, 34, pardon me. All 34 years. His response was none. And ever since that point, I keep hearing about we have to protect our children, we have to protect our children. And at a following school board meeting, actually, a parent sort of zeroed in on me because I had questioned that particular policy. We talked about, it's pretty much the general operating procedure that we have in our schools now. General operating procedure, not a policy, not a rule-breaking thing. And the question was posed to me, is it the responsibility of a child to protect themselves? And my answer to that, and you've noticed in all of our school board meetings, we generally don't enter into a dialogue with public comment as much as we'd like to, as much as we'd like to be able to respond to each person to say, this is why, I think we should do this or whatever. But now I can have the opportunity to give my response to that question. Is it the responsibility of a child to protect themselves? When I've got 2 children, and as my children were growing older, and when they were young, when they were very young, we talked about stranger danger from day one, that they understood you do not approach strangers, you do not be taken, you do protect yourselves. You kick, you scream, you do whatever. I have a daughter, and I taught her early on that it was incredibly important to protect yourself, and of all places, in the junior high locker room. In junior high, Katie, let's just say dressed sort of uniquely. She was finding herself. There was a little bit of a goth undertone there. There was a little bit of, she was never a cheerleader, so I can't go there, but she was finding herself. And she came home one afternoon and said, you know what? Some girls tried picking a fight with me in the locker room today, and I said, why? And her response was, because they were watching me get dressed. And I thought, oh, and how did you respond to that? And she said, I told them I didn't have time for this, and I went to class. I finished getting dressed and went to class. My concern with this particular quote-unquote policy with an attachment of a punishment is that we are punishing some of our most vulnerable students. These vulnerable students have gone through a lot in their lives. They've not had the support that a lot of our daughters and sons have had. And it concerns me, as it did with Madison and William and Deanne. Thank you for speaking out, because it concerns me deeply that we're going to push many of our vulnerable students even deeper into that vulnerability. I have already asked, and unfortunately, yes, Governor DeSantis did sign this into law. It is a situation where many of our policies, not all, many of our policies are based on law. Our procedures are based on law, most definitely. And we already have this in the procedures. And I've already asked, since I'm pretty much assuming that this is going to pass, that our business services, our operations department makes certain that any singular bathroom be listed as literally just that, restroom. No male, no female. If it is a single-use bathroom, please make certain that the signage in every single one of our buildings be changed so that everybody, whether you are a vulnerable student, we have vulnerable adults. I'll throw myself out there. We have bathrooms in this building that are labeled male and female that are single use. And I'll tell you, I have used the male bathroom because the single female bathroom has been full, as have the other bathrooms. So there are times when we have to step out of that comfort zone and we have to say, it's okay. I know that the students that do feel vulnerable have support, and that's the extent of what I'm going to say regarding that. And I hope that as we move forward, we realize that we have 40+ thousand students, and they are all not cookie cutter students. They're all individuals. They all have differences, and we need to celebrate those differences and keep an open mind to their needs. Thank you.
Ms. Gilhausen, can I?
Ms. Skipper, yes.
I want to address a few things that were mentioned, and from a different perspective and a different viewpoint. I have 2 little girls. I don't have boys, but I have 2 little girls that I will protect with my life. We too teach stranger danger in our house. But there was a lot of talk about how certain individuals trust their admin. And there was frustration about feeling vulnerable, about not being able to come and speak to people. I want to make it abundantly clear that these are kids, and we as a board have seen several times where kids don't always make the right decision or think clearly. And what I mean by that is, if my child is ever struggling or is ever having issues with mental health, feeling any sort of way, I wouldn't want her to hide it. I would want her to come to an administration or myself, whoever she felt or they felt entrusted to. So saying that these individuals need to keep it secret, keep it bottled up inside, that helps nobody's mental health, first of all. But second of all, this is the safety of all students, no matter what side or what viewpoint you have. There has been incidences across the country and locally. So it is happening. We can't deny that. It is going on. It is happening. And no matter what side of the aisle you are on, this is the safety of both sides. And I just across the whole board, it's common sense from this angle to protect and protect all students. Again, no matter where you stand. And as far as the teachers, when presenting this policy, we were told that the teachers have their own bathrooms, individual bathrooms, and that we didn't need to make it a bullet point line within our policy because of that reason. And I just wanted to say, in the 34 years that you have been here, and most teachers will say, this was not a major cultural issue several years ago. I know from a medical perspective, this was not. It was classified differently. So to your point, they didn't have these issues several years ago that they had to actually address. So that's all I have to say.
Ms. Hanson.
It's in my nature to try to listen to everything I hear, including speakers. If you know me, you know I love deeply, and I always love my students deeply, and they respond to that. Mr. Bickner, our policy, it accurately reflects the law as of today, right? Someone mentioned some changes. I just want to.
The policy accurately reflects the law that was in existence at the time the policy was written. At that time, this wasn't law. When House Bill 1521 was passed and ultimately was signed by the governor as the laws of Florida 2023-106, some things changed, but the guts and the nuts and bolts of it did not change.
Okay.
The reason that this is an important policy to have, in part, is because we have to report, as Mrs. Dockery said, no later than April 1st, I think, 2024, that we've complied with subsections 4 and subsections 5, but subsection 4 and subsection 5 simply say that for restrooms, we will have male or female, or in the alternative, as Mrs. Bola is suggesting, unisex. Number 5 says for changing rooms, which they establish as locker rooms and any other type of dressing room or of shower room, that you have to have male or female or unisex. And I'm assuming that a unisex locker room, dressing room, changing room, shower room would be something where an individual could lock a door and take a shower. So to the extent that it's defined that way in the new policy, we don't have it laid out quite that way, but we have it sufficient that if this is passed, that would adequately meet the requirements of subsections 4 and 5 to be reported April 1st, 2024. The other differences are that there's a part of the new statute that says someone may go into the restroom of the opposite sex, and then it has 5 reasons, A through F. And we don't have that. But the things that we do have that exist in the Code of Conduct and in board policy for administrators and the things they do generally cover those things. The other parts of it also would be applied by first responders and things such as that. You have to remember that the state statute covers correctional facilities, educational facilities, juvenile justice facilities, all public buildings, and one other that I can't remember right off the top. And so we're just sort of squished in there. So for the most part, it does. For some parts, I think that it could be clearer. One of the discrepancies that we don't have covered is that the new statute says that there's a separate section for students and a separate section for instructional administrative personnel. The new statute says that it's not enough to just say don't, that you have to be asked to leave by an administrator or a SRO, a police officer. And if you don't do that, you can either be reprimanded or disciplined under the Code of Conduct or the Professional Practices Commission. So that's not in there, but it didn't exist at the time the policy was written. For what it is, it does what it's supposed to do, which was codify what we had in place as our practice. I would probably predict that within the next year and before the end of January, let me put one more thing in as a caveat. State Board of Education is supposed to provide a rule no later than January 1, 2024. That may alter the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what that state board rule says, we may have to amend the policy. But what's in place now is correct.
Okay.
With the and as Ms. Bola said, and as you've said, I listened to Mrs. Dockery. I listened to the young man who had his say and his ideas. And I understand where they're coming from, and I will probably go back and re-listen to some of those things, because if we do have to amend in the future, there are things that should be considered.
So I guess I was thinking, Mr. Broski, you know how we write policy and every detail is not included in a policy?
Nor should it be.
If there are ideas, valid, workable ideas that the community comes up with, at some point we could make procedures, right, that would alleviate some of the stress of the kids in duress about the policy. Is that, we can do that, can't we?
Yes, ma'am, we do that all the time.
I mean, so we can make, I guess, changes through procedures. And the lady who spoke, maybe she has some precise details on how to make it better. Sorry, I don't know her name, but I know that procedurally we can do things that don't necessarily, as I think Mr. Bickner told me last time, have to be spelled out in policy.
The nuts and bolts of it
Yeah.
are procedures. The umbrella is the policy.
The
And they're
policy.
designated as different things in our own policy under 1.02 A1 and G.
So
One
are-
is for procedures, the other's for policies. One is for the school board, the other for the superintendent. So that's, yes, it's something we
So
can
as a
and should
board,
do.
if good ideas come, we can talk about those and maybe perhaps use it procedurally through administration into the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because I heard some good things, good ideas, and having a think tank of more than a couple of people is always a good thing, so.
Another quick question, has it always been a level 2 offense?
Typically, the realism is that a student that's having difficulty or doesn't feel comfortable for any reason usually comes to administration. I've personally done this 10 or 15 times over the course of my career. And then we find a location that they feel comfortable going to based on the geography of their classes, where their classes are, and work it out that way. And so it's usually not an issue at all. Like I said, 34 years, I've made accommodations plenty of times. Never had an issue past that.
And one last question, Mr. Bickner. Let me make certain that I heard what you said. This must be part of our policy because of the law.
I don't think that's quite what I said. I think what I said was that we have to document no later than April the 1st, 2024, document that we have complied with subsections 4 and subsection 5 of the new statute. In order to do that, we have to be able to document that we have separated restrooms by sex, or, in the alternative, have made them unisex, and have separated changing stations by sex, or, in the alternative, made them unisex. This policy does that, and so this meets the requirement because we're going to have to document it somehow.
I'm heartened to know that as we are building new facilities, as well as rebuilding facilities, and I'll use the Middleburg High School cafeteria as an example, that's, I think, has already started on some of the reconstruction of that facility. For those of you who spoke about this policy, we are installing more single-sex bathrooms. And you don't need permission to use them. You can use them. It doesn't matter if you need to use a single-sex bathroom or not. They're available to all students and faculty. So, for what it's worth.
So if you spoke, thank you, and we will do the best we can and keep it in mind at all times.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I abstain? No.
Not unless you have a reason that you want to fill out on an ethics.
No.
Okay.
Based on law, I'm going to have to vote for it.
So that's an aye from Ms. Bola. All right. Motion, any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. Next is item D2, Human Resources Special Action A. Do I have a motion?
I move approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do we have a second? Second from Ms. Skipper. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Give us just a moment for our voting to catch up. Next is Human Resources Special Action B. Do I have a motion?
I move.
I have a motion from Ms. Skipper. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Clark. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We have no Human Resources Special Action C this evening. So next is our second public hearing of the evening to approve as advertised revisions to use of facilities and grounds manual. I will open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the board can come to the podium at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board for a vote. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve. I'll second it.
I have a motion from Ms. Clark and a second from Ms. Bola. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, school board attorney remarks. Mr. Bickner. School board member remarks. Any volunteers? All right, I'll start with Ms. Skipper.
I know I have a few remarks, but I want to start with this so that we don't get sidetracked. Last workshop, I called for safety and security meeting, and I just wanted to address the board to find out a date and time when we could do that. I'd like to do it as soon as possible. I know we have to advertise, so.
We have to advertise and it would be a shade meeting.
So, Ms. Bonnie, do you know, like, according to advertisement, what is the first available date so that we know we can go from there to pick the date and time?
Is it possible to add it to the June workshop agenda?
Okay.
Is that favorable for everyone? June 20th, since we already have that as a date, we can add it to the end of the agenda workshop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that made that easy enough. Okay. I also wanted to address going back to these books and our teachers' libraries and the frustration with the teachers that are within that. I hate to say it, but I heard one of the speakers talk about, well, I don't hate to say it, but one of the speakers talk about it, the Library Association and the unions. They are the reason that we are actually in this predicament. So they are the reason that we are fine-tooth combing everything in our teachers' classrooms and our libraries because there was disgusting, inappropriate books on the shelf, graphic pictured books of genital parts, of all the things in the hands of our students. You can deny it all you want, but we can pull them and show you. And it was the library associations and unions who did this. So we, as concerned parents, concerned citizens of Clay County, have took it into our hands and we are going to clean them out. So I do apologize for those who we can trust to put clean, appropriate books in their classroom to help our kids read and improve their scores. But there are others who have done the complete opposite and still to this day encourage these inappropriate books. It's disgusting, period. I also wanted to address our students. You know, there are so many times where I know in our disciplinary hearings, we want to beat our heads on this table and frustration because every time we talk to our students or our kids, we say, if you see something, say something, right? We encourage them to come forward. And I know that sometimes that's hard, and I know sometimes they're scared of consequences or they're scared of grading and all the things that could come with coming forward. I encourage teachers as well to come forward. If you see something, say something, because we are a great school district. But I will always say, I want it to be better. We can do better. So I encourage our students. I know I've talked to several students over the last couple of weeks that we want you to have a voice. We want you to be heard. And if you feel that, we could do things differently from a student perspective, if we can help you in any way, if we can change something, if you have new innovative ideas, please come forward. I can't really speak for everybody else, but I'm sure that they feel the same way. My inbox is open. I have a phone you can call, and we will all work together to improve your student experience. I don't ever want to feel our students or hear our students feel that they're embarrassed, they're scared, they're frustrated. I want you all to have a voice just as much as any of us, any of our faculty, any of our staff. But that also goes for our teachers as well. I've spoken to a couple of them in the last month. So I want to say that. I know that sometimes it's not perceived that way, or there are others who will twist and their narrative and their stories, and I just want to make it abundantly clear that I am here for all of you. And because of this last month, it's been crazy. We've had graduations, we've had award ceremonies, and celebrating students, celebrating teachers. And like Mr. Broski said, this is the district's busiest time, so I do want to say thank you to all of our admins and students for all their hard work at the end of the year. And I think that's it. That's about it.
Ms. Clark?
I won't talk long because I don't have much of a voice, so I apologize. I think regarding the bathroom policy, we could all say a lot, but to me, it's simple common sense. And it's sad that we even have to write a policy. And I think the governor's intent for any penalty pertains to those who don't belong, who are trying to create problems. But for those that have a special need, I think we're all concerned and we all want to help, and we're going to help. And no one should be made out to be creating a problem that's not there. So regarding the books, there again, I think a couple of things that I would like to see added is that we go back to reviewing all the books before they go on the shelves, whether it's the classroom or whether it's the libraries. I don't know when that stopped. I don't know why that stopped. Secondly, I feel like when we go back to allowing books on the shelf, the publishers are going to continue. They've paid no penalty for bringing in books that are actual porn. And there's been no hand slapped. And it's going to start all over again. As far as I'm concerned, there should be a lawsuit. There should be a penalty. Whether that happens, I think it's something that we should consider. But that seems to be the way of the world these days, that we allow people to get away with things and there's no penalty. So it escalates. That behavior escalates. And that's got to end. So anyway, my own sister-in-law called me from Marion County and asked me months ago, what do I do about the books in my library, in my classroom? I said, well, you know what books you've brought in. You know what they pertain. You know the Destiny books are fine. Just go through the others. And she had no problem with it. We can make issues where there aren't issues. But I think we just need to do what's right, because it is all about the safety of our children. And if people are confused, maybe it's because of what they've been exposed to. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ms. Hanson?
Mm-hmm. Sorry if I get a little long-winded when we're talking about books. It was an overreach of the government. 20 years I teach reading in English. It's an overreach of the government, I think, to try to regulate classroom libraries. Most of the books, and honestly, most of the books I had on my shelf were books that were not in a library. Old classics, books like Touching Spirit Bear, The Girl Who Owned a City, books that empower kids. A lot of those old books were no longer in a library. Maybe I'm my bad, but I don't even know. The first I've heard of this destiny was when I got an email from Ms. Kidwell. I don't know where this policy is or where this procedure is. I've never read it. I've never seen it. I was honestly surprised when I found out that they're supposed to check their books in Destiny, because the reason I was surprised was if we are using Destiny in our library books as a searchable database, that is where we found all the problem books. So now we are using good classroom libraries, comparing them to books in Destiny, of which those are the library books that we have been finding problematic books, right?
I think what I understood is that they want all the books in the school to be cataloged in Destiny so that the public can see every book that's in a school, whether it's in a teacher's library or
So,
the
Mr.
school
Brodsky,
library.
can you, because I have heard different things and I've not read it.
Yes,
Can you
eventually
explain
the
it?
plan would be that all books would be cataloged and in Destiny.
So if
As
it-
you can
if it-
imagine, this would be a lot of books to add. Now, we've surveyed all schools. At this point, 50% of schools are basically done with their cataloging. The other 50% are not, right? So the challenge is, how do you treat those, how do you provide equity in that when some have done it already and they've completed the cataloging, some have not, right? So if you're looking at extra compensation, extra hours, and doing the things that were mentioned here today, makes it very difficult to do that.
Is it just so, okay, let me understand. I'm trying to understand. This 2 per person, is that,
Yes. What would happen, though, is that once it's approved for the entire district. So there's duplicate books, right? Because everybody has some of the same books. So it actually would, in theory, move faster to do this. We believe that this is necessary in order to ensure that the books that are put back on the shelves are the books that are appropriate. That's why it's there. Will it take a longer period of time, and will it take more effort in order to do that? Yes, it will.
what about
no doubt
like
about it.
pre-emerging reading books, that have very few words in it? All of those have to go in 2 at a time?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, that would be it. We can look at alternative ways to bring those on faster in the process. But in looking at a process, we've got to compare it all across the state, like the process for doing this. And we found this to be the most effective way to ensure that what we're doing is correct and accurate.
So there is no way to like merge sheets or other,
Well, that would be the idea. As a book is adopted, it's adopted district-wide. So you might have 2 or 10 or whatever you have. Each one of you then can use that book. In theory, then, if everybody had 10, that's actually 50 books that would be used in this particular case. So it will take a little bit of time, yes, but the board is also interested in ensuring the accuracy and that it's done well.
I think the law requires that it
it'd be in a searchable database,
it be in a
right?
searchable, correct. So that it is to comply with the law that the teachers' libraries have to be a part of that.
If I may just ask a quick question with that, Ms. Hanson. Ms. Tompkins brought up some of the books that she uses. And my question is, so Ms. Hanson teaches English. Let's say each of us teaches a different subject. I teach math. I've got 5 books that Ms. Hanson's not going to have in her class. How do we merge those books then into a list that we as a team in fourth grade, let's say, can use.
It was actually developed by media specialists who hold the responsibility of bringing this into the system. So this is the system that they developed through careful consideration of all aspects of this to ensure that it's put in. So it's not like somebody from the district made this theory up and let's do this. It's actually media specialists who, under the statute, hold responsibility, right? If you have skin in the game, you ought to also have some say in how it's done, and that's how we came to this point. With that being said, you guys have worked with me long enough to know that if there's another way or another thing that we could do, of course we're open to
I was
that.
just thinking, high school books might be this thick, and a pre-emergent reading book might be just some pictures on 4 or 5 pages that maybe they could do more than 2 of those. I don't know.
Yeah, we can certainly look at alternative ways. It's a good
Maybe-
base to it.
Yeah.
Right now, 50% are complete, and the rest will be done. Of course, we want to make sure of accuracy. We want to make sure that media specialists are the ones that kind of develop the plan, since they're held accountable for it.
And I would think something like the emergent reader books usually come in a set. So
No, I'm just talking about kids, and I had to teach kindergarten SIPs once for an entire year. And at that age, they engulf reading. I mean, like if you want to just pull a book out, they'll just jump on that carpet, right? They want to. By the time I taught 10th grade in high school, no one even looked at the books on my shelf. I mean, honestly, in the secondary level. But in the early years, that's what I have the most concern with when I heard some of the emails that Ms. Kidwell read. In the early years, they literally will go through 5 or 6 or 7 of those books on a carpet in free time reading. And so that's what I had concern about, was for especially in the younger years, if maybe there's a way we can come up with a way to get through those a little faster. I don't know.
We can certainly look at a way of adopting those faster, the ones that are simply picture books for
Stuff like that?
young readers, sure.
Yeah, that take 2 minutes to read, yeah. So I guess the rest of my comments, I just also want to say that it was really special sitting up on a stage during a high school graduation. I think it was Miss Sanders that actually took a picture of all their hats, because, it was my first time. I was just like, I didn't take pictures. It's almost hard to enjoy the moment because you're afraid you're going to do something wrong up there. But when I saw the picture of all the hats in there, I realized what an important space and time that is, that I actually went through myself 40 years ago, a space and time that starts the rest of your life. And so that was pretty special. I'm just going to pass these down. I'm just wondering if we could add a little bit of conversation to the workshop about part of the library media pack. It's on page 19, number 5 and 6 is my biggest concern, so maybe we can talk about it at the workshop. I partially highlighted it, but then ran out of time. I just want to make sure.
Do you have 5 or 6?
I have 6 or 7. Okay. And by the way, back in the day, you asked what happened to all these procedures. I'm not sure when it happened. 12 years ago, the county actually had a list of books, and you could go in as a teacher and look and see if the novel was on the list, and you were clear to go. And there were books on the list, such as Kite Runner, that we were not allowed to teach back then. I think some people today don't understand that there was always banned books in Clay County. Actually, we didn't call them banned books. We called them books that weren't healthy for kids. And as teachers, if you read a book and one hair on my eyebrow would go, oh, I don't know, I would not read that book, because I am not the parent of all these children. Maybe one parent's okay with it, maybe another parent isn't. It was great to have a database that we could go in to look. I'll give you an example. The Giver was a get parent permission, and they would tell them what was on each page. The Outsiders, you had to get parental consent. All of these books were on a master list. I don't know what happened to it. If you're wondering how we used to get books into a library, English teachers would grab 5, 10, 20 books over a summer, and we would get professional development points for reading them and finding problematic areas in a book. Those are some good ideas back from the past, way from the past, that could work again for us. If we could just get away from this banned book thing and just realize that they're not our kids. And if the book isn't great for everybody in the class, it's not great at all, regardless of what I think about it at home. So, and that's really all I had to say today. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Bola.
I'm going to jump on that a little bit. You'd said if a book isn't good, what did you just say? If a book's not good for
It
everybody,
makes me, yeah.
then it should be banned. Then it, not banned, but it
No, you
shouldn't be good
misunderstood
for
exactly
anybody.
every word I
That's why.
said.
That's why I'm asking.
I
for the-
said,
Go ahead.
if you read a book, it needs to be a book that is okay with everyone.
Okay, and this is, and I'm, thank you.
As a
That's-
teacher in a classroom, I wouldn't read a book aloud
No,
that wasn't
I'm not
okay.
talking about as a teacher, I'm talking about as a parent. And I'm going to read something. Mr. Friedman sent us an email and asked us to look this up from Texas. And the line that I highlighted is, parents of students always have the authority to limit their own students' access to any and all materials in a library. We're asking for parent rights. Parents in Clay County have always had the opportunity to say no.
They just didn't know what was in there, though. That's the problem.
If it was a parent who cared about their child's education and cared that their child was reading, they got involved. My son did not read in elementary school. He did not like reading. And I was working with the teachers to find something that would entice him to read. And finally, I think it was in junior high, he found Harry Potter. Oh, now, in my classroom, I couldn't allow students to read Harry Potter because the parent had come to me to say, my child is not allowed to read that trash.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Exactly. And what I'm trying to say is that, Mr. Friedman, thank you for pointing out that it is a parent's right to choose.
And our
A
responsibility.
parent's right to choose. It is my child's right. I am responsible for my child. And at the point where someone else is telling me what my child can and cannot read, that's where I'm going to put my foot down and say, wait a minute. Thank God it never happened. But if my daughter went through a rape, and a book that spoke of rape actually helped her get through her experience, that would obviously be something that may be available to her. I might not be aware of that book. She might show me a book that she brings home from a library. You know,
and I understand.
There are so many books that, yes, some people find offensive. Some people see language as being offensive, and I would probably offend some people with my language at times. But sometimes it's also part of the story. And the story for every person is different as well.
Well, we've only removed pornography, so they
that's
can
the
read
law.
whatever they want to read. But what we can't read is that violates state statute.
Correct.
That's what we're talking
I
about
agree.
here.
And what I'm saying is that I'll use Before She Was Harriet. This book was given to me. And this was on the list of banned books, of
And
books
it's
that
not
we should be
anymore.
pulled. And in reading this book, and yes, I was accused of reading this book during a parent's speech, and how horrible am I, wanting to find out why this simple book, which is actually quite beautiful, would even be suggested as a book that we should remove from a classroom. I'm concerned about the primary grades, the pre-K through 3. Mr. Brodsky, you talk about learning to read so that we can read to learn. Learning to read. Every school board meeting so far, and I'm going to continue to push the Dolly Parton Imagination Library that we are supporting, and we've got over 1,000, I think it's 1,035 children right now who are receiving books. And I keep pushing early literacy. The governor himself has talked about early literacy and the incredible importance of it. And Ms. Kidwell was sharing emails from teachers who are working in that early literacy vein. And to imagine taking, as a 5th grade teacher, which is not considered early literacy, I was at that stage where they were reading to learn, ideally. But to imagine taking my books out of my classroom would have absolutely broken my heart. And that scares me. It does, and I know we have a process that we're really trying to handle. I know we're trying to get as many books into the system as possible. I would venture a guess that the 50% of the schools that are done are probably high schools, junior highs, and perhaps some of the other elementaries, but not a lot of elementaries, because those classrooms are huge. Pre-K, kindergarten, first and second, oh my God. I think of Miss Daniels at W.E. Cherry, who's been teaching for 40 years, and the number of books that she has in her classroom that are just absolutely cherished. So whatever we can do to help the teachers, I would hope that we would step out. And thank you for communicating the teachers' needs to us. We talk about not always hearing people feeling threatened to talk to us. You know, if I talk to you, if I tell you what I really feel, I'm going to lose my job. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Please share, and please continue to share, because it helps us know exactly what the teachers are saying. Shout out, Lori Butler in the Art Enrichment Program in our county. Wow. She provides art to, I mean, yes, all of our elementary schools have an art program, but the Art Enrichment Program is to push out actual pieces of art and pictures of art to classrooms that may not necessarily be art classes. So if you're teaching a history lesson, being able to have pictures of what's actually going on during that time period. Huge program, and thank you to her for what she does. I have to do a shout out to Laura Smith. After our workshop, Mr. Broski, I'm sorry, but I complained that we did not get examples of the ice cream, and that from the contract that we approved tonight. And she invited me to Swimming Pen Creek to taste the ice cream. She's even suggesting that she pay for it, but my cafeteria account is still open, so I can definitely still visit Swimming Pen Creek. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm reading my notes real quick, sorry. Lori Smith and the Books for Literacy. And once again, thank you for speaking tonight. To those who spoke, it is important that we hear as many sides of every story as possible, because there's not always just two sides to every story. Sometimes it's a multiple, almost a ripple effect, so to say. And I don't know if we need to bring up anything regarding the letter that we received. And that was, yeah. But last but not least, just everybody have a safe summer. Take some time for yourselves, for your families. We're going to be back at the end of June, so you'll see us again this month. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bola. Are you all ready to discuss the letter we received, or would you prefer to wait? We can discuss it now. We could, the next
our
point we
workshop
would have
is June 20th.
Correct, would be June 20th if we were going to discuss it then. You'd rather wait?
I'd rather move it along.
I'm sorry?
I'd rather decide something now, at least
Okay.
make some comments. I mean, we've kicked the can down the road long enough.
Okay.
And the reason I brought it up, I read the letter. The letter that we're talking about is from a candidate for our attorney position that we had thought we had selected. And when I read this, when I went through the interview process, I truly thought that we were hiring an individual. Turns out that it would be more of a firm, and I don't feel comfortable going in that direction. So I would like to propose that we open the search again. And if we find that we don't have a lot of applicants. I know that since we closed the search, people had said things about different applicants who had mentioned it, but I would also like to seriously consider a headhunting organization, and I've got a name from the BCC that they used for their attorney search.
Okay. Ms. Clark?
I would like to go back and review some of the other candidates that we've already interviewed and see if we can come to a
Consensus.
conclusion,
Okay.
an agreement. I mean, I think the Douglas Law Firm knows school board law, and I think Charlie Douglas himself is from this area. And he seemed to be willing to.
Remind me, was that the one out of Putnam County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. But I think he still has offices here as well.
Okay.
St. John's and such.
The school board there about, do they like them? I called some people who use them, and they absolutely 100% said they are always there for every single thing whenever you need them. That was the biggest concern, I think, and the price that they offered us was very reasonable for the amount of services. They actually, they said everything we asked them would be included in that price, is what they actually said. And they have a team of, 20-plus lawyers that have been doing 20 years worth of educational law.
I think it was like
Was it
maybe
20 years?
5 or 6 attorneys, but they did have it. My concern with that particular group was that it was Mr. Douglas that answered a lot of the questions, but they were very clear that it would have been one of the partners that would be serving our board.
Which
well,
is similar to what this would have ended up being.
Right. So
And we never heard from her, well, we heard from her for a couple
one
of.
time.
Yeah.
I think she answered one question. So would it be possible to kind of do a little bit of both, where we maybe interview again? Because I'd like to interview specifically the candidate who's going to be serving the board. So I'd like to hear from her. I was very impressed with Mr. Douglas. He scored very high on my sheets, but they were very clear that it wouldn't be his expertise that we'd be getting unless she consulted with him.
Right.
So I would like to hear more from her. Would you guys be opposed to maybe advertise for a week, close it, and then we'll schedule interviews?
I'm not opposed to any of it. It's just it took us so very long
I know.
just to get some people. And I just think we could at least, number one, see if they would even be willing
Correct, if
to
they'd be interested.
reconsider.
Right.
And then secondly, if we want to talk to JP and Carol, I mean, they'd be more than happy to, I'm sure.
Okay. Ms.
Yeah.
Skipper?
Oh, sorry.
Don't forget to turn your mic on.
I'm gathering thought.
Okay.
I don't know that
If you're going to speak into the microphone, or if you want Ms. Bola to go first, we can.
Go first.
Okay.
I was just going to add something. With the Douglas Law Firm, I would like to re-interview them as well and specify who's going to be here. Not just meetings, not just student hearings, but who's going to be present for all of the questions that come in on a day-to-day basis to our attorney's office. Because there is a lot that comes in from the schools that, I mean, it's, I would venture a guess, and Mr. Bickner can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that the majority of the phone calls that you get are from schools and walk-ins from the district office for questions.
That's true. I get there about 7:10 in the morning, and the phone starts ringing about 7:20, and I get calls at home up until about 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
And I get
And that's,
emails
we
all
need
day
that.
long. So
Yeah, we need to have somebody here.
So
at
Ms.
all
Gilhausen,
times.
you wanted to find out the person that was going to sit in the office between 9 and 2 every day and interview that
Yes.
person?
Yes. The one who would be serving the board
And then going to meetings and
and right. Because it was and I don't remember her name. But
it was the girl to the right.
It was the female partner in the firm. Was it Carolyn? And I just would like to get a better feel for her expertise in the law, and and just her personality. And, you know, you learn a lot from a person when you talk to them. And I felt like he answered a lot of the questions. He was very impressive, very knowledgeable. But again, I feel like if that's not who's
I think you're right
answering
about
the
that.
phone when we call, that's not who's sitting in the office, I feel like we need to know the person who is.
I agree.
That's who we need to talk to. So I would request from them that they don't have to reapply again, but if we could interview her,
Yeah.
if she's the designated partner, and then we could, to serve, you know, your request, we could post for a week or two.
I think we have to go for 2 weeks.
Is there a HR requirement for the
2
link
weeks or-
of the job posting? There's not a requirement. Okay.
I thought it was 90 days, no? The only thing that I also want to add, though, is from a taxpayer perspective as well, that there was this statement during the interview where with the firm that if they didn't feel, or we all of us, that their side included.
Are we talking about the Douglas firm?
Right. That if it's too much work or it's not working out, we can go back to negotiations. And what scared me was when she said that they only do the 4 disciplinary hearings a week or a session, and you know we have an incredible amount more.
They're a much smaller district.
Right. However,
Yeah.
they're not used to the workload. So
Right.
what I didn't want to happen was, you know, 6 months from now or however many months from now, say, you know what, this is more than we thought, and we're going to have to like double our price. So that was, I don't know legally how we have to go around that
Well,
per se, but
that's something to consider as we move through the process. Do you feel like it's worth talking to their partner again?
I mean, yeah, I'm up to whatever the board wants. I just,
And I honestly, I see the risk there, but I also see the benefit to having a less locked in contract where we can also negotiate from our perspective if we feel like this isn't working, I'd like to change. You know, we need more hours. We need, you know what I'm saying?
Are you saying we could be mindful of how you write the contract?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that.
The length of it or the.
Do you remember when we were talking with them during the interview process? Ms. Skipper referenced that they would be interested in reopening the negotiation of the contract in 90 days to make sure that both parties are still happy with the contract. So there's a way that I'm sure that we could put that into the contract so that we're protected, but we also have the ability to renegotiate should we need to.
And I would kind of expect that anyway, quite honestly, whether it's an employee or whether it's a firm. I mean, that's the best way to handle it.
and just from just thinking out loud, I also fear that we'll be in the same predicament in 90 days as we are now with
having to start over
and whatnot. However, I do like the idea of a firm. I like to have, maybe that's the RN in me. I like to have the perspective of more than one person in the room, because how you view something is not the same as how the next person does, and having more collaboration.
I don't disagree with that. I agree with that. But there's a other side to the advantage. There's also the disadvantage of them serving more clients than just us. So they're dividing their time. And should at any point in time the best interest of the school district conflict with the best interest of somebody else that they're representing,
right?
How does that baby get split, so to speak? So I have some concerns about that. But, you know, I think it's something to, and also when you're dealing with a firm, there's much more overhead. I think they tend to be more expensive than an employee. You have a little bit more control over the contract when it's an employee versus having a firm. I've learned a lot through this negotiating process. So I think there's costs and benefits to a firm. I think there's costs and benefits. I'm not sure that it's cut and dry that one is better than the other, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And I think those are all questions we don't have answers to. And if we interview, if they're even willing, then we can ask them.
All right, so is the
gather all
board
that.
agreeable to direct Ms. Troutman to re-advertise for, let's say, 2 weeks?
So here's what I heard you say. You want us to call the Douglas law firm, see if they'll come in for a second interview in the process. I heard you want us to go ahead and post the position again, see if there's other people coming. I heard the idea of a headhunter, so somebody that actually does that work and seeks those people out. Is the board
Just for background information, I just passed down the name of the company that the BCC used to get their current attorney, Courtney Grimm.
Okay.
And I tried to determine what the cost would be for something like that. And it's my understanding, if I'm not mistaken, that it's based on a percentage of the salary that is eventually offered to the attorney.
That's usually how it works.
And so it's not a huge number necessarily, but depending on what that percentage is. And it basically, it helps in seeing what our needs are and being able to then cull out any of the applicants that may not necessarily meet the needs that we have or don't have the experience that we might need. It's an option, and it's one more opportunity. So Ms. Troutman has lots of opportunities then to gather as many names as we can, because it's time to start searching again, unfortunately. And we sort of thought we didn't know that it would happen, but anytime that we're looking or seeking for a person, you always know that it could happen, so.
Mr. Brodsky, how would you work out inviting the Douglas firm for a second interview at the same time as advertising for other people?
I think it certainly can be done. We'd simply call them and say, hey, we're interested in interviewing you again for this, but keep in mind there'll be other candidates that'll if there was no other candidates other than the one, it's actually negotiation, it's not interview, right? Because you've already made that decision. So I think it's perfectly all right and clear to do that. So what I want is clarity so that we do what it is you want us to do. One, we'll reinitiate with the Douglas firm to see if they still have interest in doing this. I didn't hear about the headhunting idea. You clearly want it posted to get more people to come in. Can I get the headhunting? Do you want me to look into that?
So I have a friend who's a headhunter. It is expensive, but they find you exactly what you want. So we would have to be able to define exactly what we want, and they'll find it for you.
Well, that's what the job posting
description.
is
Yeah.
pretty detailed.
Yeah.
So
And then
I would
providing the
like,
contract from what we had done with Mr. Bickner in conjunction with the
Can I get consensus on the board
I
on
would
whether
like
to
to
do
try
that?
headhunter
I
as
agree,
well.
I would like a headhunter.
Yes, are we willing, is what you're asking, Mr.
Yes.
You've got 3 yeses and 2
Is
quiet.
everyone willing?
I would like to at least wait a week or two and see response from the Douglas law firm, and then see what we get in the 2 weeks' notice before we spend the money. I mean, we also have the Clay Law Group right here in our own county that we ought to reach out to.
The Bar Association?
Yeah, and I don't think any of them even knew that this position was advertised. Not that anybody there would fill it, but they might know of someone.
Well,
Certainly they know.
That would be the advantage to a headhunter, because they would
Right.
not only have the contacts in Clay, but across the country.
Right.
So I mean.
But speaking to most of them, they didn't even know.
Yeah.
So that's,
So once again, going to contact the Douglas law firm, see if they're still interested in it. We're going to post it in as many spots as we can for at least a 2-week period to see who else comes in. Can you provide direction as to whether or not we initiate the headhunter now?
Would you like
or
to know
wait?
the fee associated before you make a decision? Because sometimes
Okay.
they don't collect a fee unless they fill the position.
I also think I was thinking along the lines with Ms. Clark. If you invite the Douglas firm and at the same time put out that you're looking for someone else, it doesn't seem very professional. If we want to re-interview the people that were in the first pool, we should just do that. And then if we're not happy,
No, I disagree. I think it's okay.
you want to do both of them. So what if the Douglas firm decides they're ours? What do we do? Call off the,
If the Douglas firm decides Not
Or
to,
if-
not to re-interview? Is that
Either
what you're
way,
saying?
or if we decide.
Her question is, Ms. Hanson's question, I believe, is if they accept, then we can cancel.
If they accept our invitation to interview, you want to cancel?
If we came into an agreement with them, we would.
My preference would be that we invite them to interview again. The one attorney
Yes.
that we didn't really hear a lot from that they said would be designated for Clay County, I'd like to interview her again.
Yes.
And I would schedule, personally, personal preference, I would schedule her interview first, the first interview of the day, and then schedule the rest of them after her. Does that make sense?
They still want to know about the headhunter. We would still do a headhunter,
Correct.
even
That's
asking
part
them
of the
back
search.
with the
That's-
2-week
Correct.
open.
Yes.
That's what, that's what their
But-
question is.
But I understood they wanted to know the fee associated before they
Right.
agreed to a headhunter.
Right.
So-
Me as well. I want
Right.
to know the fee before we're like, all right.
So if we can contact and if you'll communicate the fee to the board. All
All right, I got it.
right.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Chief.
Madam Chair, if you could
yes.
also think about when you want to re-interview, because remember, that must be advertised.
Right. So,
So we need
if
to allow that time for it to be advertised.
If we open, what's the earliest you could post the position? Tomorrow. Okay. And you could contact the headhunting group tomorrow. So we could have that information by tomorrow. And then, would you guys want to interview? Let's look at the calendar.
Our next school board meeting is the 29th. Are we going to have any student hearings on the 29th? Possibly we'll have one. If we had the I'm looking at the 29th and 30th, if we.
We could do the 29th. I'm
and 30
available the
or
29th or the 30th.
Because
Yep.
we're all out of school. We're here anyway for the, I don't know if everybody's here for
take
the school
months.
board meeting. I shouldn't say
What did you say?
I think headhunters take a little time. It's a pretty lengthy process with them, so.
Well, let's find that out tomorrow and then set a date tomorrow. Does that work for everyone? Sure. Set a date for the interviews tomorrow after we have the information about the headhunter? Okay.
And just so I can be clear, if the Douglas Law Firm is available and willing, we're saying we're holding that interview until we get additional interviews and do them all at the same time.
That would be my preference.
Mine also.
I felt like, and give me feedback if you disagree, but I felt like having the interviews back to back, the way that I scored them, I wrote my notes and then I scored them after I interviewed everybody because I like to compare. So I would like to talk to her and then talk to whoever else we decide to interview and compare.
So my mind works that way. I know, shocker, right? I have to, it's better for me to do it all at once because I'll forget.
Yes.
Like a week ago, what this one said. I mean, I can go back and watch the feeds, but that's like, if we can just do it in one, then I can, like you said, compare.
And we do have that workshop also. I don't know if that would be enough advertising time, but we have the workshop on the 20th.
I'm not going to be here the 20th.
Oh, you're not here for that
I
workshop?
can call in for the interviews though as well.
Would you be comfortable with that? Okay. So we could look
Yes.
at the 20th instead of the 29th? Would that be feasible?
Is that, I don't know if that's enough time to advertise after a 2-week.
June 20th?
Well, I think we can advertise the interviews at the same time. Like, there's no reason we couldn't go ahead and advertise that we're going to interview on this day. And then if we don't have anybody to interview, we just don't
There you go.
interview.
Okay.
So just go ahead and advertise it so that we have that spot held. Is that
Whatever
agreeable?
we need to do. Yep.
Okay, so Ms. Troutman, do you want to advertise for, does everybody want to do the 20th? Following our agenda workshop and then the shade meeting?
Is that going to give us enough time? Well, it depends on how many.
So what if
people
we
have.
schedule it for the afternoon of the 20th? That way we have the morning to do the agenda review. We have the shade meeting following that and then break for lunch and go right into interview attorney candidates. Would that work for everyone?
If we only have one or two, we can still proceed, or we need to wait until.
Oh, if we only have one or two, I think we can still proceed.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, that I would say so.
I would hope so.
I would hope so.
Okay. All right. So prepare for a long day on the 20th, everyone.
Were we going to talk at all about the survey information,
The policy,
policy
Um,
tonight, or?
we can.
Well, it had been brought up I thought you had handed it out.
She did.
Did you want to talk about it tonight, or are we waiting? It's your,
I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm obviously in favor for the one that I submitted, not the one that was
I'm not,
rewritten.
only because there's stuff in here that doesn't make any sense. A through H. What are A through H? And let me preface by saying I went to a Neola policy that's similar, and very similar to the one you gave us, but this, and I was looking at the policy that we were given by Mr. Bickner, and there's really, between the Neola policy and the Mr. Bickner policy, for want of a better way of saying it, you had said, I want parents to opt in, and Mr. Bickner had suggested opting out. And I think that we're on the same page, actually, except, and I spoke to Mr. Bickner about this earlier, there's one section, and in Mr. Bickner's, it's section 2, sorry, C2. And we got into a discussion about surveys from the state. And one of the areas in this are surveys from the state. I mean, when they ask about the students and things, some of the surveys get pretty personal. So the only thing I was going to recommend is, if it's okay with you, I suggested to Mr. Bickner maybe just changing some of the terminology from rewording some of the Neola passage to the passage that Mr. Bickner had. Everything else was pretty much the same. It's the opt-in, opt-out. That's the only difference.
I actually did about 20 hours of research on this because I just didn't really know what I wanted to talk about.
Then we're
And
going to
can we move this to a time where we can have, that's not so
Conversation.
late that we can have a better conversation about it? Is that okay with everybody?
That's fine. It's your policy, Ms.
That's
Skipper.
fine.
Okay.
We're gonna need
We can discuss it either at the workshop, if we have time, at the end of the agenda review, prior to the shade meeting.
We can also wait for the
Mr.
new attorney.
Mr. Brodsky
Doesn't
can go
matter.
speedy. Then we have time.
Point, because I just didn't like how loose the verbiage was.
Well, I thought it was even more detailed than the one you gave, to be honest.
No,
Yeah.
mine was more direct, which is what I intended.
Okay.
But we can discuss it on a later date.
Okay. All right. We will hold that discussion for another night. All right. At this time, this meeting is adjourned.